All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly happy hour. So great to see you all coming into Zoom. And I know a lot of you are going to be watching live on Facebook or viewing the recap posted on our Vocal Jazz Academy YouTube channel. So thanks for being here. We are looking forward to you actively participating in tonight's brainstorm session about the upcoming school year, as hard as that is to think about. Just a reminder that immediately after this happy hour, you can join our what we call our after party breakout rooms. We have one for K-12 teachers and one for college university teachers. The rooms aren't moderated. You can just go have open discussion. And you find the rooms by going to our Vocal Jazz Academy Educator Support Facebook group page. And you just click on rooms and you can actually go in them anytime after we're done. Before we get started, we're going to just looking forward to next week's happy hour, which we'll talk about more in detail when we do our wrap tonight. But our plan for next Thursday's happy hour is to hold regional breakout sessions. We've been talking about doing this for a while because we feel like it might be useful for directors in, say, the Seattle area or the Midwest to get together to talk about area-specific considerations. We know that some of you are totally almost face-to-face or totally face-to-face. Some of you are totally online. So we're going to try to help facilitate that discussion using multiple Zoom sessions, and we're going to get some feedback from you hopefully on that tonight. So that being said, welcome. I'd like to invite Christine Guder to lead our toast tonight. Christine?
Hey everybody, here is to change, to transformation, to perseverance, and to family, which all of you are.
Cheers. When we started this community, oh my gosh, I guess it was mid to late May, and we got the Facebook group going and started these happy hours. I'm not sure that any of us felt like we were really ready to have these discussions, but we know we needed to. We know we needed to at least start getting our heads out of the sand and going, okay, how can we be proactive and ready for when our administrator says, okay, you can have 2 students at a time or whatever your situation is. So I know those of you that are here, that have been here with us weekly, those of you that have been leading discussions in the Facebook groups, you guys are actively looking for answers. So we are going to do our best to peer into our crystal ball tonight. Not that any of us have any answers, including any of the folks here, the friends of ours that host festivals that we're going to have a discussion about tonight. We know the answers are here. We know that the answer right now is I don't know. Maybe we'll just raise a glass every time somebody says I don't know or I'm not sure tonight. We'll have to see kind of how that goes tonight. What I do want to do is we're going to kick this off with a poll this evening, and that's going to appear in your Zoom. And if I get fancy, I'll try to see if we can enable the poll for those of you watching on Facebook Live too. So what you're going to see on this poll is not the option to say, I don't know. It's you have to kind of trust your gut and go, I think my administrators are going to let me do a concert in person, or I think they're not. And I think what that's going to help us do is it's going to help us shape our discussion tonight. So this is real quick. Those of you on Zoom, go ahead and jump on this. And for those of you watching online that aren't here with us, the questions are, what format do you anticipate your ensemble will be delivered in for the fall? What format do you anticipate your ensemble will be delivered in for the spring? Again, take your best guess. Reach down into your gut. The third question is, do you believe your ensemble will be allowed to present in-person concerts at your school this year? Do you believe your ensemble will be allowed to travel to an off-campus festival or event this spring? That's a huge one. That's obviously what we're centering the discussion around tonight. And I put a question too, just because those of us that are arrangers are curious too for the school year. Do you anticipate you will purchase more charts than normal, less charts than normal? What we're trying to do is to look forward and into this school year and kind of get a feel for where we're happening. We've asked a bunch of festival directors to join us tonight. We've got Brad Rees is here from Tiffin, Ohio, Ryan Holder from Northern Arizona University, Greg Jasperse from Western Michigan University, Jamie Shew from Fullerton College here in Southern California with us, Gal Williams from Cal State Sacramento. Who have I missed? Kate Reid is here with us, who runs a festival down at the University of Miami. Jeremy Fox is with us, who runs a festival, the Fox Fest in Iowa. So I invited them here because they're all much smarter than me, and they have many more answers than no. We're all trying to figure it out together. So I hope those of you that are directors that are thinking, okay, what can I create for my ensembles? To do. So what I'll do is, it looks like everybody in the session here, well, we've got at least 20 things. So I'll close this off in just a minute here. It looks like out of 20 votes right now, 70% of you say that you're anticipating that you'll be face to face with restrictions for your ensemble. So smaller ensemble size, distancing, cleaning mics, that kind of thing. 25% of you think that you're going to be online or basically online. I pretty much know I'm going to be online for the whole year. I don't see, my administration called the fall in early May. So I've already known for 2 months I was online. So I don't see what's going to change personally. Hopefully some of you will have a chance to do a little more with that. Do you believe your ensemble will be allowed to present in-person concerts at your school this year? Half of you said it was a coin flip. 25% said, yeah, more likely than not. 25% said, no, likely not going to happen. So that's something to think about. That's a big unknown that we don't know. Do you believe your ensemble would be allowed to travel to an off-campus festival or event this spring? Over half of you said, no, this is not likely to happen. And that's exactly why we want to have this discussion tonight. And only 4 of you said, yes, this is more likely to happen than not. So that's why we're having this, this discussion. So thank you all for participating in that. I'll share the results in Zoom so that you guys can see them yourselves. LAUSD is going back. Wow. Just to kick off the discussion, I'm going to show this to you. In preparing this session, I'm trying to think, because what I'm trying to think is, why would my students sign up for this? Why would they do this? What do they normally love about choir, about jazz choir, that makes them want to do this? And then when I built this list and I started to look at it and go, well, what was I able to do this spring? What am I going to be able to do this fall? Obviously, they come, they want to take part in performing in concerts, performing off campus, recording sessions, which is just performing in slow motion. Certainly, they want to build their individual skills, their reading, their improv, their ability to solo, stage presence. Number 3, obviously they want to build community. Tonight, we're not going to focus so much on what can we do to motivate them within our ensemble. We've had some talks about that in previous happy hours, but we're talking about, can I still do an exchange with another school? Could I do it virtually? What does that look like? And then the last 2 that I think most of us festival directors are always in the mindset of providing, helping to provide, is our students come because they want to get to see the New York Voices sing, or they want to get to see MPAC perform, or they want to see Amanda Taylor do a clinic. So getting that inspiration, and then obviously tours, festivals, memories. I built this list for myself and I went and looked at it and I said, well, what was I able to do this spring? Let's see. Well, no live performance. Kind of did sort of a shell of a recording session for number 1. Lots of focus on number 2, the individual skill building. And then basically 3, 4, and 5 were totally out the window. And that's where we started in the spring, as we were just trying to figure out where we were at. But hopefully going forward, we can start to think about and discuss tonight, what can we do on areas 3, 4, and 5 to get things moving forward. So that's the stage I wanted to set for the discussion tonight. I'm going to pass it off to some of the other festival directors that are here with us, who of course are all vocal jazz ensemble directors themselves, and understand this from a director perspective as well as running a festival. But What kinds of things would anybody be willing to share? Do you have some ideas? Are there some things starting to circle around that you go, okay, if we're virtual, I might do this, or we might try to do this. So if any of you would be willing to jump in and talk about where you're at, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I guess I can start. We're not sure about the Sac State Jazz Festival just yet. We're sending out a survey to the to directors and see what their fee, like if they're willing to pay a certain fee for a certain presentation or a clinic, maybe possibly sending videos in and having multiple, just not one clinician, but multiple clinicians view it and give a video response. And just have a spelled out format where we don't want a virtual require edited music video, something just straight off an iPhone something, and just to hear that, I don't know yet, but so that all ensembles are kind of recording on the same platform, but we're not sure where that's going to be. I don't want to say I don't know, but there you go, take a shot. So that's what where Sac State is at now, at least with CASMIC, which is the California All-State Music Conference. For that, we're trying to throw out ideas if it is going to go into a virtual platform, if we can provide an opportunity for our students, those who make it into All-State, to work one-on-one with a director and have a time frame worked with them. So Kim Nazarian is our director for 2021. So we're just trying to find ways to work with her. But I don't know, would it be a waste of time if students aren't in the same room with her? Because her energy is amazing and it's great. And I'm pretty sure she's amazing online as well. But just trying to find opportunities for our students. So that's where we're at least, with CASMIC and Sac State.
Thanks, Gal.
I'll jump in. This will be what we're calling version 2.5 of the Accent Festival, because we were supposed to have the second version 2 this year. And really, this year was going to be an experiment, and we were going to redesign everything anyway. So we're kind of in that mode of like, well, we're going to throw everything out the window to begin with, so what are we going to do now? Fortunately, Accent is, good at distance music making and distance learning, so that's a good thing. And what we had planned was to have less focus on student ensemble performances and clinics with individual ensembles, and more like of a curriculum with different classes and different things that students could do. And with the different Accent guys, of course, bringing different things to the table, that's something we could still do to a degree. This next week, I'm hosting a virtual music production and songwriting camp that we've done in person every summer for the last forever. And we're going to try to do it this year using like Discord instead of Zoom, and using like Soundtrap and some not synchronous recording, but like remote recording setups where everyone can have an app on their phone and they can contribute tracks to recordings and contribute ideas and sync them up within a minute or whatever. And depending on how that goes, that may actually inform what we do with the festival, and try to actually do some live remote something. I like some of what Cal said, so I'm going to steal that. And beyond that, that's kind of all we got. And since Accent probably won't be able to travel in and out of the States, then we're going to have to do it virtually anyway.
And I just want to add, because when you were talking about your summer workshop, Monterey Jazz Festival just had a 3-day summer jazz intensive with students, and I got to work with, there was a room of 18 students or so, and just talk about vocal technique, and students are more than willing to sign up to listen to you talk other than their director sometimes, right? Like that's why we take groups to festivals, so that the clinician can say exactly what the director says. So I got a chance to work with 18 students, and it was fun. Getting them involved was a little tricky. Getting them to sing online and do examples, but I don't know. I thought it was great, and how Monterey ran it was really fun, and we had great feedback from the students too, and they felt it was enriching. So
Not to bounce back in here, but that brings up like an idea. Why don't we do our festival like during the school day when the choir in their choir room? You know what I mean? We can make like multi-phased asynchronous for the whole week and then have a thing together on Friday or something.
yeah.
Well, that's going to be part of the discussion for sure. I talked to John Knutson, who of course runs the festival up at Cuesta College. We had a long conversation about this last week. He's somewhere in the redwoods without Wi-Fi. That's why he's not here tonight. But we started to bop around some ideas. And the first question is, yeah, is it during the school day? Is it still on a Saturday? Maybe, maybe not. But probably polling directors and getting a feel for when they could be available. We talked about maybe taking groups of 2 choirs or 3 choirs and putting them together in small groups. What we always do at Oceanside Jazz Festival is called flights. We actually do that when we're face to face. But even virtually going, okay, well, you guys are available Friday afternoon, so let's put the 2 of you together with this clinician. You guys are available, I don't know, Thursday night. I mean, it could be opened up to a window of days. I'm not sure, but I think there's some potentially creative solutions on the horizon.
I'll jump in just to back up a little bit, because I've not yet committed to the idea of having to do a virtual festival, but because of our space and all of the limitations we're working on in terms of how many people can be in a room, I was already Matt just mentioned the flights, and so he and I talked earlier this week, and I was like, yeah, we're probably going to move to a flight situation because that helps cut down the number of people in the room at one time. And I'm just dragging my feet a little bit in polling the people who normally come to our festival up here in the Upper Midwest, because I'm pretty sure they're all going to say, yeah, we can't come. And it's such a big bummer because we had to cancel this year, and Sage was our guest artist. And so, we've got the flights, everything is booked for this coming year with Sage. And of course it's looking less and less like we can all be here together. So when Matt asked me to be here tonight in this role, I said, well, I'm happy to brainstorm publicly because I'm going to be learning and getting ideas alongside all of you. So that's where Western is at the moment. We haven't decided anything, but I'm watching the needle do that. So.
Yeah, that's definitely the same at Northern Arizona University. We were also scheduled to have Accent come out for our festival in February, which is not going to happen. And even if it could happen, the idea of cramming 1,400 kids into an auditorium is just not possible anymore. So I'm also looking at the flight idea. I'm also looking at the ways that we can bring the festival to the teachers, whether that's through virtual clinics, or even if we can get some clinics here, maybe send them into a school every now and then. We haven't figured it out because, again, like most of us, we just don't know. We don't know. I didn't say the other one. Okay. And for us, I mean, Arizona is like a super hot spot of COVID right now. So we just have to see. So that's where we're at.
We don't really, honestly, we really don't have a plan. And I guess I would love to hear from directors, though I think it's still very early at what you're even allowed to do, even right now, let alone what you would be allowed to do in the spring, whether you're able to sing in person, how many people you can have. But I guess I would like to know, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking more clinics and reaching out to various directors and doing clinics, or recording clinics, or doing live Zoom clinics with our faculty. A lot of our festival is clinics in our upstairs classrooms. And if we can have our faculty do those clinics in a live Zoom kind of setting that could reach a lot of people. So I'm thinking that, but I'm also, there's something that I'm thinking about is, you know, if you were to record your ensembles, would you want this to be a competitive situation? I mean, you know that our festival has traditionally been competition, and I know that means a bit to some of your administrators and things like that. Would that be helpful for you this this year as well? So those are kind of some of the ideas that I guess I'm floating around, is again recording yourselves, like Gao said, unedited versions somehow, using the same platforms, and then also just the clinic feature. That's all I got.
Well, directors jump in here. I mean, we want to hear from you all too, and we see, you know, some people talking here in the chat. But do some of you want to address some of that? Like what
Yeah,
format works? Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
yeah. I was just gonna say that just based on the last 3 months, because we had class from March 13th all the way till, you know, June 12th or whatever, and I was meeting with the jazz choir twice a week, and some things worked really well, and some things were a challenge. Like I brought in guest speakers to my meeting, and I had almost 100% attendance every class. Like the kids came. And I think the connection was a huge part of it. Like they wanted to stay connected with each other and with the school. So I brought people that came in and were guest speakers, and that was great. And the same thing would work with clinicians. They would be all in. They would definitely do it. The challenge for us has been sort of the logistics of the technology. We see all these beautiful recordings, virtual choir recordings and stuff, and just a lot of our kids, we were not able to get that part together. But everything else, you know, we could do, and they would be into it. The other thing, Matt, what we did is we did have some meet and greets with other groups, with another jazz choir, like, and I had all of them in the room, like all 30 kids in the Zoom room. We shared videos with each other. We talked about rehearsal, talked about techniques. The kids got to talk to each other, and that was just really great. So I think the biggest challenge for us is the technology, because where it is with the delay, it's hard. And I just don't, I know we're not supposed to say I don't know, but I will know next week whether we're going to be going in person or not. And that's a huge part of this, whether we're in person or not, because that will sort of help make all these other decisions happen. Because I could see if we're actually together in a room, that's going to be one format of a jazz festival, or if we're all in our homes on Zoom, that's another format of a jazz festival, right?
Right.
Yeah, can I just, there's some comments there. You know, we just had our Arizona State Choir Conference the last 2 days, and we were able to bring in more A-list people because of the cost effectiveness of it. You know, we didn't have to pay for travel. We didn't have to pay for a hotel. So that in turn allowed us to access to more. So I think what the people are saying here in the comments is, yeah, you know, I think we can think bigger as far as who we bring in for our quote unquote festivals.
Can I jump in on the competition part of it? I think competition can be both good and bad. I think for my kids, even if we were working, we were working on virtual choirs and things like that. I think for them, it might give them a little bit more buy-in of like doing a really good job on their recordings as opposed to just getting it done for their grade, because it's a competition. But I could also see that it could be really challenging for the kids that don't have access to be able to do it in the same way. So maybe if it was like an option, like when you join the festival, you have the option of like, I want to do this for competition, or it's purely for evaluation for the kids. Might be a way to do it.
Wow, Brad, do you want to talk about what you just put in the chat?
That's all I know about it, other than this year in Ohio, at least the Findlay High School Show Choir, and I know a few others, come under the High School Athletic Association umbrella now because it's an extracurricular activity and meets certain requirements, whatever. So because of that, they are not ruling out being able to have, well, at least within the state of Ohio, some of their regular competitions this year. Maybe without an audience, or maybe with, I mean, whatever, who knows? But I just thought that was really cool. And honestly, with my vocal small group, I'm in the same situation because it is one of our completely extracurricular non-credit ensembles, which at Tiffin University I have gotten to sort of allow us to follow the athletics rules. So we will have we were sent off campus when we went under quarantine like a week later because they shut classes down. But then we kept our athletics rolling for about a week. And so I kept rehearsing for a week with them. And then everyone went home after that. So, not going to say it because my beer's empty.
Courtney, I just think that was what you said was awesome. But and that's the same for my high school students, at least at Christian Brothers High School, that competition kind of gives them a little bit of incentive to do a really, really good job. So I don't know. Now, you know, as a director of the Sac State Festival, I don't know. We're non-competitive, so and I might add some ratings to that so that students and teachers, directors can have that available to them.
Well, I also want to jump in and say, and I agree with all this, but I know working with my own students in the spring, in the more emergency, oh my God, this is crazy situation, but it was hard to even give them feedback the same way you did before. You felt like you had to be, I mean, you wanted to be so supportive and deal with their emotional needs and all of that, I kind of felt guilty by going, hey, can you cut that off on the and of 3 if it is okay with you? You know what I mean? So like the concept of doing a clinic right now with a choir and going, hey, you guys, you know, I'm your vocal jazz personal trainer for the day, and you guys are exploding T's or whatever, you know, the normal stuff we say as clinics. Like, I feel like this is going to be a different situation this year. And maybe it'll be different by the time we get to the spring and we'll all be used to this and we'll even be more settled into Zoom. But I mean, I think clinicking could potentially change some.
Well, one of the biggest differences in our school is then in the fall, we can actually grade. So that is going to change things too.
Oh.
When we went in spring, you froze your grades exactly where you ended. So your upper choirs, older choirs were like, we're there. But the younger ones were like, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, it depended on the buy-in of the choir. So I think things will change if we're online in the fall because they'll actually have a grade attached to it.
That's a great point.
I think also with the possibility of virtual clinics or with virtual festivals and things like that, because we won't have to pay for travel, we might actually be able to participate in more things and in things that we normally wouldn't do, like festivals that happen in Ohio and Arizona and things that are out of state that we in California that I would not feel comfortable taking my kids on a plane because they're hooligans. You know, if it's virtual, that, you know, might be a cool way for them to get more experience and more exposure without the cost of travel and all of that fundraising.
Yeah, and if it's virtual, you can go to any festival in the world. So why think even locally or regionally or within your state, just go anywhere you want.
Absolutely. Real group, do one in Sweden, and then we're
That's
going
right.
to Sweden.
Yeah, so we're going to host this year's Oceanside Jazz Festival in Australia. No, wait, okay.
Perfect. I love it.
You guys mean something different than that. All right. Hey, folks, we're getting really close to half past here, so I think we're going to go ahead and do, as we do every week, bottoms up, folks. Thanks for being here. I don't know. I just love throwing that in. It's kind of fun.
Matt, can I ask a question? So for those of you who've been talking about, you know, going to festivals around the country and things like that, would that look like that your groups would be performing, gosh, how do I even say this? They'd be performing in your choir room and live streamed to feedback? I can't even speak. I don't know what to even say. Or would this be you would record yourself in your choir room if you're able to sing together? and then submit a recording and then get live feedback? I mean, what would this festival look like?
So some of the options that I've been bouncing back with my colleagues is, since we're not paying for facilities to hold this festival, we can pay a sound engineer to go to each, well, at least the schools that come to our festival is very local. And so they'll go to each school and then record the ensemble. And then we'll have a Zoom meet with the clinician. So that was something we're throwing up, and we just got to find somebody willing to record so that it's all on the same platform, and they can keep it leveled. Anyway, yeah.
That's a great idea.
I think you could do either a live stream or pre-recorded. It seems like both would be okay. For example, that's what churches are doing. The church where I work, we mostly do live stream. But for example, this weekend, the clergy are in my church. They're all out of. So, and I know other people on this chat work in churches as well. So I think you can give. I don't know. I think you can give people either the option to do either one of those, or if it's easier, maybe just pre-record it. I'm not sure which one's easier for people, but I think having the options to at least do both would be helpful.
And maybe having okay, so my choir is online only, so we can't actually submit anything, and we're not going to do a big, huge virtual choir video. So let's just take the option where we just come to the clinics and see this person, talk and do. So maybe, different, not tiers, but you know what I mean. People are just able to participate however they can.
Or Matt, what you could do is, another thing is, what if they just send audio only? I mean, I know it's a festival and we're seeing it. What if are they allowed to maybe just send audio only and they can get comments from the clinicians? It's just a thought.
I mean, you could. Yeah, certainly. All of that is possible. For me, when I start to think about this and I start to think about putting 2 or 3 choirs in a Zoom call and playing the videos or playing the live, whatever, I just think it's going to be so much more engaging if they have the video with it. And so certainly you could do, I mean, we submit our recordings to Downbeat every year. Is that a festival? Maybe not. So it's so area specific, and like Gao was talking about what's happening specifically in her district. But that would be my feedback, is that video of some kind would be more valuable.
And I appreciate what you said, Matt, or I think it might have been Matt, that just having a Zoom meeting with a clinician, even if there isn't a performance to view, at Sac State, I mean, some of the ensembles come in with one song or no songs at all and ask the clinician for resources on scatting or lyric delivery or solo singing, or they bring in tunes that are not finished, because ours is in December, so it's a little, early-ish for a whole set to be ready anyways. So groups bring in a half-finished tune, and then the clinician spends 45 minutes with them, and they could spend that 45 minutes however they really want with this clinician.
So I have a question. I think maybe a festival could be an open format depending on what kind of position the particular school or group is in. Like, for instance, I'm all online and I can only run one ensemble, and it's probably going to have 24. I mean, I don't know. I'm just making this up because I only found out yesterday, but let's say I have the CAP class at 24. It's not going to be Pacific Standard Time or Jazz and Tonic or Corner Pocket. It's going to be Vocal Jazz Ensemble class. And I'm probably going to split it up into different groups of people so they can sort of do whatever in their own small groups. But I don't know if I would be ready to take anybody to a festival, but I want to give my students as meaningful and educational experience as I possibly can. So maybe a festival host would say, okay, here it is. What can you bring? What can your school do or bring to the table? If you have a live performance that you can submit, great. If you have a video you can submit or audio you can submit, or maybe you have nothing to submit and kind of play it by ear, so the festival host can take all these responses and set up the festival in a way that, I don't know, is makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, Sac State kind of does that already, which is, I think it's great. And, you know, there's not a pressure to, I don't know, be perfect in December or even be ready. So.
Hearing everybody talk, I think, and I saw Jeremy's comment a little while ago about, you know, the sense of being together and lifting each other up that happens when your students go to a festival, and to somehow find a way to connect those groups. And I know that here in the, you know, upper Midwest, and Matt, you have the same thing too. And Jamie, everybody does actually, from when your groups come from so far, and then just being in that one spot is super exciting. We are moving a new streaming system into our recital hall. And so that would be something I would probably advocate for using, and seeing if the people who would regularly come to our festival would still be able to, if they're allowed to be together and sing, to gather their students on that day, and know that even though they're in their high school choir room or whatever, if they're streaming the event and we somehow can share their virtual performance or their live performance where they are, and then they can watch, everybody else can watch the clinicians give comments. That's the other thing about the pre-recorded performances, is that, you know, students get a lot more out of those clinics. If there's a clinic component, they get a lot more out of those clinics if you're referencing something they just did. If you're, as a clinician, if you're talking about something they did last Thursday, that's not probably fresh in their mind anymore, unless you intend to kind of watch it again. But, and maybe that's good. I don't know, maybe that is good, but there is a component, I think, to like the immediacy of comments and feedback right after they've given a performance too.
Yeah, that's a really great thought. Now I'm thinking, oh, maybe I pair groups up and I put them in a Zoom session 2 days before the festival and have them get to know each other and do some sort of, you know, thing where they meet and sing for each other if possible, obviously, all that sort of thing. And then like, okay, then in that 2 days before, that's when you know, record. If you can assemble students in a classroom. It's really tough. Julian is asking a question in the chat, which I really want to hear from directors. He said, are you all still planning for your typical 20 to 30 minute sets? I mean, are we, I can't imagine doing 6 songs with my choir. I see a lot of heads going that way. I mean, are we, you know, is it just send whatever you can, send 2 songs of opposing, I mean, it's just, Kate, I see you want to jump in here?
All that has been said, yes, and then more yes. Yeah, I think I have to just reiterate the same thing. We have to bring it to the capabilities, the logistical situation, what the students have to bring, what the director's facilities provide, whether it's a recorded. Yeah, I think 1 song, like Gal said, half a song, whatever is going to provide that opportunity to get that group to move from this point to the next point with some kind of a musical experience and an emotional attachment to that experience.
I just had a comment. So I appreciate, Matt, what you said before about like you're going to be online, so you're not sure what you're going to be able to get together. I think that's really important. So I super appreciate us looking at everyone's situation and everyone's options, because everyone's in a different place. It just really depends. Like if we're at home, like I really tried to get my students to do the virtual choir thing. And then I asked them, I said, well, why aren't you guys submitting any of the stuff? They said, Mr. Tremis, like we're here in the house with my siblings, with my parents. I'm in my room, trying not to make noise. It's like logistically really hard to do this. And so we're all in different places like that, right? So depending on where you are, sometimes it's hard for them to do it, like what we're asking them to do. So I think being sensitive to that's really, really important. And I think, yeah, whatever you can do is great. And if we're in meeting as a group, that's one thing. If we're not, that's a whole other ball game.
We're planning on being kind of in a hybrid, face-to-face hybrid situation where we will have to do some things online. And so what we're doing now is we're just kind of deciding, like, for my 80 voice non-audition choir, clearly not anymore, but they can't survive as 420 voice choirs. That just is a horrifying thought. So what can we do with those 80 people over a period of a semester? You know, maybe like 2 songs in the fall where they're taught at separate times, and we figure a way to put them together somehow. Maybe a combination recording project and performance, and then do 1 song for Christmas and focus more on the recording, or what? We're you know, and put them in the band room spaced 15 feet apart, 20 at a time, and God only knows. But yeah, we literally have every week, my staff and I kick around 100 new ideas of what probably won't be great, but what could be different.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this idea of competitive festivals. I just, since it's been brought up, there's just so many factors that would go into something like that. But one thought I'm willing to share so far is, I think with the digital submission thing, the more technology progresses, the harder it is to police editing or anything like that. And especially if you just don't have a controlled environment, how much of it can you trust? But I also know that the downbeat categories are pretty diverse. Like there's a lot of things that you can submit for. And so are there subsets of a festival? Could you open up like best student mix of a virtual choir, you know, that's exclusively student run, something like that, that we've never really considered before, because it's just kind of been the next group get on stage, sing, go do a clinic, and that's the experience. So if it is to be competitive, can we take into account all the different situations that people are in and open up new categories? But I think the biggest and strongest thing would be to have it be optional, because there's just so many choirs that are not going to be in a situation to compete in any way. But that's a whole can of worms that we have to solve.
Yeah, but that's good stuff, Ian.
I have a question. I sort of posted it in the chat, but is anybody experiencing a spending freeze this year? Anybody? Yeah, some people.
I
Yeah.
was saying, I'm terrified because our biggest fundraiser, we sell wreaths at the holiday, and that gives us, I mean, we're an old program, so the city knows it's coming. So that gives us about $50,000 to $60,000 of our base budget. I don't see the door to door. I mean, we're trying to figure out how we can do it online, but the budget I've been used to having will not happen. So it's going to be a whole other ball game for me this year in terms of how I get to do stuff.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Sorry to keep jumping in, but as a small private college, we actually, like, my dean came to everyone, all the faculty early on, and said, we are going to have some extra resources for ed tech, knowing that we're going to be crazy online hybrid or whatever that's coming from the state. And actually today our governor just increased that by $50 million for school ed tech. So I said right away, video recording and production technology, because I knew we wouldn't have real audiences, so we're going to have to manufacture some audiences. So I've got a little bit of money to throw at video production gear that I've never had before, that I've wanted forever. So at least in that case, it's a nice little perk, if you can call it a perk in such a situation.
Jessica jumped on actually, and well, okay, I guess that was a private message, but I think it's a question worth asking. Would anyone's school allow them to host or go to an outdoor festival? Would that make a difference? It's really about whether you're allowed to take the students off campus, right? And put them in vans or cars.
It's like for us, it's all up to the district. There's like an office of risk management, and they either approve you or don't approve you. And my guess is they're not going to approve anything, at least in the fall. Maybe the spring, I don't know.
We'll stay posted on that, I suppose.
That is an idea, though, for my festival in Flagstaff, which is in February, which snows. I could move it down to Phoenix, have it outdoor, and that could be a possibility.
It's a good idea.
Our theater department on campus is considering building a stage in the parking lot and having drive-up concerts. Why not, right? Wow. The technology's there.
Crazy. Would it be more helpful to also, I know a couple of you have festivals where you include a solo component as well. Would that be something, directors, that you would see being more helpful? It could potentially, and I know for some of you, especially universities, you know, your solo curriculum is totally separate. I get this, so I'm talking mostly secondary, but would it be helpful to have a solo component? It might be easier to send a student a iReal Pro or Band in the Box track and have them sing something along with it, or it might be easier to get them in a classroom one-on-one with an accompanist. And is that vocal jazz ensemble? No, it's not. But would that be a valuable component to consider adding?
It might be interesting for those students that like do have the capability to record and are anxious to record, to be able to give them a pathway and a goal and something for them to be able to accomplish without having to feel, I don't want to say like weighed down or something by the students that don't have the same abilities. But you know, those super high achieving students that want more and want to do more, maybe a solo component would be good and would give them that outlet that they need.
We've been doing that at Western. My second year back here, I started a solo component, for two reasons, just so that you know, vocalists who are coming in their high school groups, just to remind them that this is an ensemble art form and a solo art form, and also because it gave, you know, sometimes our guest artists are soloists, like Sarah Gazarek or Kate McGarry, John A. Kendrick and whatnot. So then it gives those folks too a real moment to shine one-on-one with some singers that have signed up for those slots. And it you know, in this climate, in this online climate, it might actually increase participation, because it's by the spring, a lot of these kids will have figured out, you know, how to do these kinds of things on their own if they've been at home for coming up on a year by March or so. And I know that, I mean, we're probably all in thinking about this, and even just thinking about our teaching, you know, offering a lot of different ways to provide instrumental tracks or support. I know I record a bunch of piano parts and just send them off to my students, and we're working on that same thing for the upcoming camp with the voices. So by that point too, we might have a real library of things we could share with folks who are interested in participating on a solo level.
I have a question. I mean, maybe it was answered before, but what would be better, to charge people or have it for free?
Donation, I mean, suggested donation?
Have to be higher. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Say that again, John.
Oh, would it be better to have a festival for free or charge for it, since people have hiring freezes, you know? Not hiring freezes, budget freezes. So just a thought.
Possibly like it really depends on the clinician, I guess, if they're willing to do it for free, and if they're not, because I know some clinicians that would do it for free. I mean, I would do it for free, but you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting a fee or an honorarium for your expertise. So I think it depends on that. I know that our fees are going to go down because it's not the same. So it would probably be a lot less. I just don't know what that is, what that number is. So
When you budget for a festival, the bulk of your expenses, besides travel, are your clinicians and your guest artists. You're paying, those professionals. So will our operating budget for Oceanside go down? Certainly. Will it be zero? No. Not if we want to get people in to work with your choirs. That being said, as we're talking about these different options, and okay, I want to serve these people that are online only. I want to serve these people that are somewhat in the classroom. Somebody on Facebook, Mark Hoover from Seattle, posted, what about, doing quartets or quintets recorded at appropriate distances? That could be easier to do live and get some feedback. But I'm like starting to think of different tiers. Okay, you pay this much and you get, this is live and we do this and virtual choir this, and then, here's the fee just to come to the clinic, and potentially in obviously working with people's budget is the primary thing, and working with their in class or not in classroom situation is the goal. So that's starting to go through my mind, I guess.
Would it make sense to promote a festival with the idea of, what you are able to contribute goes directly to this A-list jazz star that is not gigging right now because they can't. Mm-hmm. And so be very forthright and upfront about, this is exactly what the money is for, and you can make this suggested donation, but anywhere between 0 to whatever you are available to pay. Because again, everybody's going to be in a completely different situation. But knowing that you are directly supporting an artist that should be working daily and isn't, I think that's actually a really good thing to discuss.
And it might be a good opportunity to get Michelle McColl in Australia, get Dina DeRose in Europe, right? I mean, I'm just thinking of a couple names off the top of your head, but open your mind, even just as directors. And some of you have been saying this. It's been kind of going through the chat thread here, but this is your chance to, potentially get on a call with somebody and not have to pay the travel fees. There's some real benefits in different things now that we're so much more used to Zoom. Could be some really good things that come out of it too. Wild West, Michelle says. Yeah, absolutely.
Does this also open up another opportunity for us all? Can you all hear me just fine? I hope so. Okay, great. Yeah, also opening us for another opportunity to kind of do festivals in other areas. I know for us, we're along the West Coast always. We're up and down California, but I know that there are festivals in Florida and that we obviously wouldn't have the budget to travel to, but in a normal year. But I mean, like since they're all virtual, I think maybe we could share kind of across the US, just to see how festivals are run, what the clinicians are doing on the other side in the East Coast or the Midwest. Just because, yeah, we usually get down from Folsom down to LA or Oceanside. That's about as far as we go on our side as well. So I think it could open up another opportunity across the US.
Well, I agree with that, Julian. And, all of us have different angles that we've taken with our festivals. Kate gets every choir in the studio to record. I don't do that at my festival. Like everybody has their angles. Ryan's festival in Arizona is jazz and madrigal. And that's what makes, all these little characteristics make each of our festivals unique. And so I think it is a really good chance to explore some of those things and the different bents. So I agree with you completely.